Hey guys, it's Holly. So since it's Halloween season, I thought it would be fun to take a look at the LEGO Harry Potter Graveyard Duel set from the original Goblet of Fire wave in 2005. Now this is set 4766 and has 548 pieces and overall is one of the more expensive retired LEGO Harry Potter sets, which is really interesting considering I feel like this isn't one of the best old Harry Potter sets. Honestly, I feel like a lot of that price range purely comes down to the exclusive minifigures in this set, as well as the fact that the Goblet of Fire sets didn't seem as widely available. But cost aside, I'm really excited to show you guys this set up close and personal, so let's have a look. Here is the Graveyard Duel all built up, and it is pretty underwhelming, I feel like, overall. This is a set that I was personally really excited for, but after seeing it all built in front of me, it just doesn't feel like a very solid and all-around really good set, despite how awesome the theming of the entire thing is. But before I dive into that, let's have a look at the minifigures. So first up, we have Harry Potter, and one thing that I noticed when I actually went to unbox this set is that the Harry face that is printed on the box and in the instruction manual is completely different to the one that actually appeared in this set. And then besides that, Harry has got this really nice exclusive torso for his final task outfit. It's really simple, but it works very well in favor of Harry in this set, and overall, I think for the time, this minifigure was really solid. Next up is none other than Lord Voldemort, and he is a very basic minifigure. Really, the star of him definitely comes down to his glow-in-the-dark head print. I think the detail on that is amazing. I love how menacing and evil and just overall scary it looks, which is definitely, I feel like, accurate for this set, considering that is a very scary time seeing Lord Voldemort for the first time. His really only detailing comes from this grey fabric cape that you place over the top of him. It reminds me a lot of the Dementor or even Jyn Erso to some extent, which I find kind of funny. And just like Harry, he comes along with a little black stick in order to represent his wand, but besides that, there's really nothing to him. He's just got plain black legs and a black torso, and unfortunately his hands aren't glow in the dark as well, it's only the head. Moving right along, and we have Wormtail or Peter Pettigrew, and this is his second version. The first one, of course, was in the original Shrieking Shack set, and since then he's had a little bit of an upgrade. He's had a much better looking head print, as well as some hair this time around in that really bright ginger color, sort of giving that like Han Solo bowl cut sort of hair, which I don't think is all too accurate, but I guess for 2005 it works perfectly fine. His torso is really neat, and he already has that little replacement hand that Voldemort gives him, represented by that grey hand on one side. Otherwise, he's got a really nice shiny metallic knife. It's really awesome to see some of those metallic prints since they don't do them anymore like that. Overall, this minifigure is pretty cool, but it just does not feel like the character at all. And lastly, we have my favorite inclusion to this set, and this is Lucius Malfoy, and he sort of has like this Death Eater variant to him with that scary Death Eater mask, and then when you turn it around, they've actually just gone and reused the head from the 2002 sets and just updated it to be that little flesh tone that they introduced with the Prisoner of Azkaban wave. He's also got a much better looking hairpiece, which funnily enough, they continue to use on in 2010, and then besides that, they literally, again, just like updated his torso print from the original sets, and I think it pays off in this way, especially having that dark grey color. It blends in with the cape, which is the exact same cape as well as Voldemort's in this set. Now, going back to the set, and honestly calling it set feels a little bit wrong, because to me this just feels like a really big mismatched jumble of sort of side build. Because instead of having one rather cohesive looking larger build, there are 9 different smaller sections. Really, the largest portion you get is the Tom Riddle gravestone, and besides that, everything else is just very small and sort of acts as set dressing for that. Now, overall, I think this set has done a fantastic job at the graveyard theming. It's really spooky and plays into a lot, I guess, of like the sort of, I want to say zombie type of thing, given that there's a lot of skeletons and various arms and legs scattered throughout the set, which I think is really cool, but overall, it just doesn't feel like a very good set. Each individual build on their own is pretty solid, and I'll sort of talk through each of them one by one in a second, but as a big group, it just doesn't feel very good to me. I can't see this being a particularly good playset for kids. I mean, there's a lot of space and I guess room for imagination. There's a couple of play features, and then display-wise, it's really not that great either, and really you can tell that this is an older sort of Lego set. But it's really interesting to me to see how this set conveys in real life rather than just looking at images on the box or in artwork and things like that. So the first build we're going to talk about is this little tree, and it is just a very, very basic build for a tree. I mean, there's a little bit of shrubbery at the bottom with these green plant pieces, but for the most part, it is just a bunch of brown pieces all stacked up in a rather tall tower with a couple of archways off it. One thing that I did think was really cool was actually having the bats hanging upside down off these plate pieces. That was pretty neat, as well as having spiders attached to the tree crawling up, and at the very bottom as well, there is a skeleton which is attached via one of those neck brackets. He's just held on there with a little Technic piece, which is pretty cute because he could swing around, but it's not like you're really going to lose him if you pick up and move this set around, which is really good considering, I guess, how many tiny components there are that could be knocked or moved or transported all at once. Besides that, there's really not that much to the tree. I mean, it's a pretty nice backdrop and adds some very much needed height to this set, but overall, it's really not that impressive. Next up are the three smallest builds of the set, two of which are gravestones and one of which is the little cooking pot where of course Lord Voldemort himself becomes a thing. Now in 2005 we didn't have a baby piece or anything like that, so really we just had a nice little pot of studs here which you could also throw, I guess, the knife in to add to it, but really there's not an awful lot going on here. It's just a cauldron piece stacked on top of a couple of orange studs. It really doesn't add too much. This is definitely the worst build of the set. There's not a lot to it. It's literally just a cauldron on top of some stud pieces, and considering it's not even pictured on the front of the box, it almost feels like it was a very last minute addition. The other two gravestones, however, look really cool. I love the build design. I mean, both of them are relatively simple and there's not really a lot going on. However, there is a little bit of hidden detail if you open both of them up. You've got some skeleton legs sticking out of the coffin of one of them, and you have his matching head sticking in the other one. I love how you can open both of these up, and just those printed pieces overall look really neat. I also love the tombstone design. There is a sticker on one of them, and then the other is built up using one of those old style sort of skeleton pieces, but I loved how they used the shape of the skull just in order to create a really interesting shape. Next up we have the gate, and I really feel like this is one of, I guess, the biggest parts of this set. I mean, it's really not that interesting or too complicated in the grand scheme of things. It can just fold up and close, but really this gate adds a lot of, I guess, extra depth and space. It really makes this set feel very spread out. You can put it at the front, you can put it at the back or the sides, and it really just makes it feel a bit more like a graveyard. I really feel like the gate is probably one of the biggest components of the set overall, and definitely is one of the most important, and it's really neat. I mean, it's very, very basic. Again, I love the dragons on the top. It's a really nice little touch and accent, and this chain really doesn't do anything that much, but it's a really important and crucial part of the set, which is interesting considering just how basic this thing is. It also allows you for a lot of, I guess, customizability when it comes to the other pieces of this set. I mean, you can just lock up one gravestone on its own and sort of have that as a separate section, or like I said, you can have it opened up and really scattered around the set. You could put some of the smaller ones in here, you could put the tree in here, but really I feel like that large gravestone really, I guess, cements it a little bit better. And speaking of that large gravestone, this has to be one of my favorite builds of this set. I just love the giant tombstone that they've got at the back, as well as the sticker detail, the little frog to add as a statue on the back, and or even just the touch of the flowers that are there. I kind of wish that they were, I guess, like black or grey in a way to show that they've been wilting, but I completely understand why they did it the way they did. And this whole grave as well does actually have a little play feature, as you can move this little spear on the side. Both of the plates will pop off really quickly, and then all of a sudden there is this skeleton ready to give you a giant jump scare, which I think is really cute. It kind of reminds me of sort of the zombie thing. It makes it feel very spooky and haunted and all of that, even though it is just a poor, unfortunate wizard. Now, I'm not entirely sure why this little wagon was included. I mean, the build of it's fine. The wheels turn, you can roll it back and forth. You could have someone sat there, I guess, like controlling it, even though there's no horses or animals or anything to lead it. And then on the back, there is yet another coffin where you can pop off the top. And this time, instead of having a full body, you sort of just have some dismembered limbs, which is pretty cute. I mean, it's not particularly easy to open. It falls off pretty easily as well, since there's no like jumper plates that were used there. It is just simply tiles. I mean, it just sort of serves as a backdrop piece to me. I really feel like this is something that probably could have been excluded. Another one of the better builds is this little, I want to call it, I guess, just like a little tomb again. To me, this doesn't really feel like the innkeeper's house or anything like that. I'm also not too sure why there's this like separate section on a hinge joint, but I mean, there's a little trash can in there, again, with another limb, and there's just a random tap and drain, complete with a broom and a shovel as well, for, I guess, the groundskeeper to get on and do something in here. But this whole thing as well, there's really not that much going on here. You can't really pop off the roof or anything, but this whole flooring section does actually come off pretty easily. And again, there are just some more skeletons. None of them have arms or anything. It's really pretty basic. It's not like you can open it particularly easily either. So I'm not too sure what the point of putting the skeletons down there is, but at least this build feels pretty substantial, pretty large, and really, again, adds quite a lot to the layout as a whole. And last but not least, there is the centerpiece of the set, which is the gravestone area. And this is probably one of the, I guess, most simple designs of this set. There's really not all too much going on, in my opinion. I feel like it's pretty basic. There's a lot of just, I guess, empty space that's around there. There's some steps leading up, which are pretty cute, and they are all tied off. And I love the use of the slope pieces at the front to sort of really round off this whole chained off fence section. The gravestone, though, overall is pretty basic. I mean, the statue works perfectly fine, but it's nothing too special. I'm not a huge fan, though, of the white being the background for the gravestone tile. I feel like it stands out a little bit too much and doesn't quite have that same sort of dark, spooky, and gruesome feel that I feel like the rest of the set has. There's also, I guess, just like a couple of vines with some eyes sticking out on this stickered piece here, but you can actually pop this whole thing up and, just like some of the other gravestones, expose some things this time. However, it's some snakes rather than a skeleton, which I found kind of interesting. I really would have liked to have seen another skeleton sort of pop up type of thing, but otherwise this gravestone is really just very basic. There's not really anywhere for the minifigures to stand. I mean, I guess you could put Harry on one side and Voldemort on the other in order for them to be dueling, but since this is, again, a set that has a lot of different pieces, like not having studs there really means that these characters are sort of going to go flying everywhere. It would have been nice to sort of have this built up a bit more using some plates in order just to have, I guess, a couple of studs mixed in with the tiled pieces so that they wouldn't fall over. And for this to really be the centerpiece of the set, it does feel a little lackluster. It just feels like there's really not that much going on. It's very basic, and overall, I feel like this could have been done just a little bit better. So that is the set overall, and there is no way that these days, with how much this set inflated in price, that I think that this is worth it. I just feel like the set overall feels very disjointed. I think the theming is really the only thing that is completely cohesive, and it's not bad for a set that is based off concept art, but overall, at the end of the day, this is just a ton of tiny little side builds that you'd put together in order to make a scene. I don't necessarily think it would make a great play set. It certainly doesn't make a great display set, and overall I think this set has aged very, very poorly. Overall, there are some pretty good pieces, but I certainly don't think it is worth running out to go and spend a ton of your money on. But let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below, and if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below, and until next time, I'll see you later.